Hello, and welcome to another episode of the CIRS Group podcast. I'm Barbara.
And I'm JC.
And today, as you can see, we have a very special guest, Dr. Jodie Dashore. Thank you so much for being here with us. We really
My
appreciate you.
my pleasure.
And we are going to get into a fantastic topic today, mostly aimed at pediatric care and CIRS or mold illness and some alternative treatments. So before we dive right into that, of course, none of this that you see in this episode should be considered medical advice. You need to talk to your own doctor and practitioner about what is right for you and your unique situation. But other than that, we will get started. I first want to introduce Dr. Dashore by reading off her bio. She's an internationally recognized practitioner, author, researcher, and a pioneering medical herbalist. She is widely known for her unique plant-based medicine approach to autism, Lyme disease, chronic inflammatory response syndrome, PANS and PANDAS, chronic neurological conditions, IBS, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, CFS slash ME, chronic fatigue syndrome. Sorry, it took me a second. Fibromyalgia, MCAS, female hormonal balance, preconception reset cleanse, pregnancy, breastfeeding, and camel milk medicinal protocols. Amazing. It's amazing how many things are all affected by, well, all of the illnesses we always talk about on the podcast. I will, I guess, turn it over to you, Dr. Dashore, if you'd like to further introduce yourself to our audience and also let us know how you got into this work to begin with.
Yes, thank you, Barbara. So at one point, my then 8-year-old son was given 2 months to live with a very complicated medical scenario with autism, PANS, tick-borne infections, colitis. As a medical professional, and more importantly, as a mother, I refused to accept that. And during the intense research that followed, literally trying to save his life, I came across Dr. Shoemaker's work. So I've mentored first with Dr. Shoemaker and then also Dr. McMahon since 2014. Subsequently, decided to take on the certification challenge, a two and a half year study process, which was which was overall a very rewarding pursuit of knowledge, and it helped save my son's life pretty much. That the CIRS aspect of it was such a missing piece. The complication here was children with autism and the leaky gut, Crohn's, colitis, these different scenarios that are associated with children on the spectrum, with not just on the spectrum, but any additional pediatric special needs. I help people in more than 90 countries. And it's not just children. So like you were, reading off the diagnoses earlier. So what happens is a special needs child is a very stressful situation for any family. And often other family members focus and direct all of their resources, energy towards getting the child in a much better place. And in essence, they neglect their own needs.
Yeah.
Right? It is a very traumatic experience for the whole family, especially the mothers. There is so much societal pressure, and often there is, blame and finger pointing and shame associated. In many cultures, it's like a black cloud over the entire family name, no matter, how many other achievements the other family members have. So what I find is, and it's been such a blessing, that once the child with special needs starts to get better, then I see mom and dad, grandparents, because they're all living in the same, in some cultures, it's a joint family approach, and even extended family, even if not in the same residence. The awareness for environmental toxins rises. as the child starts to get better. And then, I'll find lots of family members that come on board. So I treat people of all ages, and I do it with herbal medicine because in the end, we had to transition my son to herbals to help him fully recover. I must have been one of the, I might have mentioned this before, but I must have been one of the only crazy moms that goes out there and decides to, buy an organic farm to grow herbs and, make my own medicine. But I think the universe knew that I had a destiny, you know, and the purpose was a noble purpose. And I think that once I started making the herbal medicines and helping my son, and I would say thousands, more than 5,000 children in around the world.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, and you mentioned the obviously going the herbal route with your son, and I imagine with little patients and that they're more you may want to go the herbal route as opposed to some of the other, like for example with the binders and the Shoemaker Protocol, those are all prescription medications, or the binders are. And I imagine the herbals are gentler, or I'd be curious to know why you go a certain direction with a particular patient, and what makes them suitable for the normal Shoemaker Protocol, and then what makes them more suitable to go the herbal route.
I do guide families with your standard, normal 12-step Shoemaker protocol. I'll often get referrals from pediatricians or internists, other specialists, Lyme specialists, who refer families to me that wish to pursue only the pharmaceutical aspect of things. And yes, I'm happy to, join their medical team and help them pursue the Shoemaker protocol. But more and more, my practice is completely plant-based, utilizing herbal medicine. And the reason for that was, like I stated earlier, most parents of children with special needs, maybe PANS, PANDAS, could be autism, could just be CIRS, could be CP, right, cerebral palsy, could be motor neuron disease. There are so many pediatric special need problems out there, unfortunately, Fragile X, Guillain-Barré syndrome. So most parents like to go all natural simply because of the severe reactivity in children, picky eating, reactivity, gut issues. I mean, the gut issues are really severe in children with special needs. So when you look upon a natural approach, let's say, for example, antibiotics, right? So we find, for example, if strep is a major trigger for PANS, as are other infections like mycoplasma, staph, even MARCoNS. We know mycotoxins and CIRS is also a big trigger for PANS. Now, if there is existing autism, then you have a child that I end up diagnosing with PANS as well as CIRS. At that point, if there are underlying infections, for example, using antibiotics, you have to go in with the prescribed age-appropriate dosage in order to achieve efficacy. But when it comes to herbals, there is no such thing as building resistance, because the herbals have, a bouquet of active compounds that are of course, we use antimicrobial herbals. So you can literally build up from one drop up, and until we reach the targeted antimicrobial dose where the underlying infection is killed. It could also be tick-borne infections that are big triggers for PANS, PANDAS type issues. So that's what it is. One last example would be the herbal nasal spray that I have. We have the regular, now we also have the advanced, and many of the herbal formulations are patent pending because of their uniqueness, right? So the herbal spray, if it is an antibiotic spray and you don't use it at full dosage, The mark-ons are already antibiotic resistant, so there is that chance that the mark-ons will develop resistance as you're trying to build up. So that is not desirable. Whereas with the herbal spray, right, Formula One, NSP, you can literally build up with like one spray in one nostril once a day, all the way to the prescribed dosage of two sprays each nostril 3 times a day for 3 months.
Hmm.
So I mean, that is a huge advantage using herbals. And, there is hundreds of peer-reviewed papers from many different countries, especially Ayurvedic medicine, which is 4,000 years old in India. So there are, and of course, TCM, right, traditional Chinese medicine. There's a ton of research on the antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, repairing and healing properties of herbal medicine.
I'd love that that's an option for people, especially for those that are nervous about going the prescription route, especially with kids. Everything changes when you're talking about kids, because it's just you need to be as careful as possible. And you're like you said, you're supporting the whole family and making sure that everyone's doing things that they're comfortable with and that work at the end of the day, most importantly as well.
So all of that said, it sounds like you have a lot of experience with this patient subset. And I'm sure the parents listening to the podcast would be interested to know when is the appropriate time to consider alternative treatments or therapies if they do have either a sensitive kid or special needs pediatric case.
That's a very important question. So I'd like to emphasize that Dr. Shoemaker's science is the foundation of everything that I do for patients with CIRS. But I mentioned that I've chosen to utilize an herbal medicine plant-based approach. Now, the backbone starts with a detailed and a deep dive into patient history. And the backbone there is Dr. Shoemaker's standardized 37 question symptom survey, those symptom clusters. And the best resource for that is the Surviving Mold website. Different age groups in children will require differing amounts of symptoms to reach a threshold of significance. Certain warning signs would be children, let's take, for example, on the spectrum, right? So children on the spectrum who complain about, or, if most of them, unfortunately, that come to me are nonverbal, but, mothers, I had the same issue with my son, and us moms of nonverbal children on the spectrum, we just developed this detective skills and crazy amount of intuition to be able to communicate with our child. And so symptoms like chronic headache, fatigue, chronic abdominal pains, primary nocturnal enuresis, meaning bedwetting at night, attention deficit hyperactivity, pandas, unexplained joint or muscle pains, severe asthma, breathing challenges, shortness of breath. These are some of the symptoms that I look for in children diagnosed with any kind of special needs, including being on the spectrum. And that makes me suspect that there could be underlying CIRS. Additionally, since many of Dr. Shoemaker's labs are not available in all the countries, we utilize whatever local blood work is available through the local pediatricians. And we know that CIRS is a multi-system illness, JC. So it is, as a certified practitioner and with more than 20 years of experience with dealing with pediatrics, it is quite important to understand that what could be the physiological and the biochemical changes that can occur, and there are lab markers for those. not necessarily Dr. Shoemaker's markers, because those are only available. Those are the best ones, of course, but those are only available in a few countries now. So that's what we do. And then we also utilize advanced functional medicine labs that can be shipped to many countries around the world. And based on that, it is very important to identify all of the triggers for CIRS PANS. Most of the children, I would say more than 95% of children that come to me are on the spectrum or have any other pediatric special needs, also have PANS. And one of the triggers for PANS is CIRS. So that is where, it becomes important to establish a completely individualized, customized protocol, initially based on the evaluation, and then later on, it's further fine-tuned based on the labs we get back. So the dosage of the herbals, the prioritization, if there are multiple microbial issues going on. So all of that will depend on individual lab results. Yeah, if I forgot to mention an important piece that, it might be autism, it could be CP, it could be any other pediatric special needs, but with PANS, special needs and PANS, it is so important to address the CIRS aspect of things first. That is what was, for my son, it was a complete misdiagnosis. It was, for nonverbal autism, because he was functionally nonverbal. There were many words, he just couldn't string them into a sentence. And then he started reading on his own. So it was this, a really smart kid, but a mixed bag. He's in medical school now, and he wants to pursue pediatric immunology to help children, not go through what he had to go through.
Wow.
So that's, yeah,
That's
I'm
awesome.
I have
proud.
goosebumps. That's amazing, Dr. Dashore.
Thank
Oh
you.
my gosh.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, it was mind-boggling. It was a complete false diagnosis. I mean, imagine 90% of symptoms were from underlying issues. And then 10% we could say maybe Asperger's kind of a deal, but that's very high functioning spectrum issues. Now when I was growing up, I had high functioning mild special needs as well, which is what, and we had so many MDs in the family, mother, brother, cousins, uncle, so that, I was like, you know what, I would like to go into pediatric neurology and investigate the brain. And that's how I started out. That's what inspired my son. But for us, guys, it was a 7.5 year journey.
wow.
One thing led to another. You know why? Because we tried all of these, autism is big business, unfortunately, around the world, and there are all of these many options available out there, and some of them, the best thing that can be said about those options is excellent marketing skills.
Mm.
So many of us parents of children with autism, we are so desperate. And with my son, they gave us, like, he was losing a pound a day, and they gave us, he was 52 pounds. Everyone stopped responding to my emails, my texts. I was pretty much left alone, the 19 specialists that we had seen in 4 countries. And I was like, I have to figure this out. 52 pounds, what? It's less than 2 months to live. So we did. We did figure it out, and that's how the BioNexus approach was born. But, trying so many different things, so many different specialists, and in the end, if you don't address the inflammation, the infections don't go anywhere. You can keep medicating, keep killing, thinking you're killing them, but they grow back because there's underlying inflammation. The organs don't come back to fully functional because the CIRS aspect has not been addressed. The brain cannot be regenerated. And yes, there are herbals that can be used for neurological repair and regeneration, but that only works when the basic inflammation is calmed down. So the CIRS aspect was huge for us.
And kind of to your point, all of these autism specialists having really great marketing and kind of going down those different rabbit holes first. No tea, no shade to survivingmold.com, but that website looks like it was built in 1993. And you can just kind of tell that Dr. Shoemaker really put his time and effort into building this amazing protocol. And the only downside of that is that CIRS hasn't really had the same level of marketing that you're kind of speaking to with those other platforms. So I just wanted to throw that out there for anyone who, has gone down different rabbit holes. And I know for myself, when I was going through my CIRS journey, I kind of had this thing of learned hopelessness where each time I tried something, it made it a little harder to try the next thing, not knowing whether or not it would be another thing to let me down or finally the answer to the things I was experiencing. So thank you so much for sharing that story.
Oh, that's
Well,
amazing.
thank you for your insights as well. Most of us here who have gravitated or found Dr. Shoemaker's work have some kind of a personal journey that we've had to undertake, and we ended up finding, I would like to say, personal growth, authenticity. I found my life purpose, and I've impacted so many families around the globe. And it's been a blessing. It's been a huge blessing getting my child back. And then I had the opportunity to address my concerns as well, once Brian got better. And it was, yeah, I can't even begin to express my gratitude to Dr. Shoemaker's work and to Dr. Scott McMahon for, always being there for us. He's always been there for me. He's like a big brother, my pastor as well. He's just a phenomenal human being.
Oh, that's awesome. And for the viewers, if you haven't picked up on this, Dr. Dashore works with people internationally. This is a very important thing to drive home. Not only all the specialties and all of the therapies that she can do otherwise, but the fact that you are able to see people in all countries practically. I don't know if there's a country that you don't work with, but it's amazing. I mean, because that is such a struggle for people, especially if they live outside of the United States, or even for those that are here that might not have access to health insurance, or they can't get prescriptions. There's a lot of reasons why somebody would need to go an alternative route. And I just again want to say thank you for being that resource and that guide for people in that space that just don't have access to all of the things that the perfect ideal Shoemaker protocol would have you do. So I'm so glad there are alternatives for that. Speaking of, I want to know if there are resources that are available to caregivers of pediatric special needs patients, both on the detoxing protocol side, but also emotional or financial support. Do you know of, where they can go for that kind of support?
I would like to caution with autism and pediatric special needs because there is a lot of information on the internet. There is a lot of, DIY protocols available out there, but it is very important to do your research and discern the intricacies of each protocol because honestly, what I find is that there cannot be a cookie cutter detox protocol for each child. It needs to be individualized, because we are looking at, pediatric special needs already happening, right? The child is already on the spectrum, many of them level 3 nonverbal, self-harming behaviors. You need someone, I always say this, you need a practitioner that understands the full 360, right? Because, we are looking at CIRS, PANS, autism, tick-borne infections. We are looking at methylation, genetics. We are looking at mitochondria, the gut, the autism aspect of things, right? So there is a lot going on, plus the deficiencies that come with all of these different medical conditions. It's overwhelming. So you need that one-on-one guidance. As far as resources go, most parents look to social media support groups. Those are great. Many of them point you in the right direction. I have a really small podcast on YouTube, right? The social media handle is BioNexus Health USA. And the podcast, we have many parents sharing their success stories, the numerous ups and downs that we experience, not just parents, but also individuals, adults who've gone through the herbal protocol. Just recently, actually tomorrow, the podcast airing will be a wonderful young lady from New Jersey, and she flies between New Jersey and Jamaica trying to get the best herbal medicine, but she fully recovered herself from CIRS-induced ulcerative colitis.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
All herbal. Her gastro thought she was insane when she said, you know what, I keep getting flares in spite of you shutting down my immune system with Humira, steroids, NSAIDs, right? Major anti-inflammatories for the gut, all three of them. And, it's giving me musculoskeletal bone associated side effects as it happens with steroid, numerous other side effects, keeps falling sick because of the biological, which shuts down your immune system. And Dr. Shoemaker cautions that no steroids when you have CIRS, it can make matters worse. So she stopped. And her gastro was like, hands off, lady. I don't want anything to do with you. She said, that's fine. And her mom had cancer and she had CIRS associated UC, and they're both doing well on,
Wow.
she's, but so that is, and she found me on social media through her own research. I think she found me through my podcast, as well as some CIRS like support groups. So that's available. Additionally, financial. I don't have any resources for financial support. You guys might have some, if there are any. Now, I do a lot of pro bono work, and I do get donations from families that most of my philanthropy is focused on families in developing countries in Southeast Asia, Africa, and we help them out with medicines and shipping and consultations. We also do group support, meaning group information or group evaluation sessions for parents to come on, those who cannot afford individual evaluations. It is so beautiful because I have parents, mostly mothers, of and fathers, I should say. I just realized in Belgium and Serbia, yes, well, moms and dads, of special needs kids who have recovered under my care in India, Pakistan, Somalia, Serbia, Romania, and Belgium that are starting their own either nonprofit brick and mortar establishments where other parents can come for support, or online support for other families with autism. So they just want to pay it forward in those
Wow.
countries.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for all of that, Dr. Dashore. It's incredible how one man's work fighting Fisteria in Pocomoke, Maryland, has led to all of this, and you're just carrying on that torch. Thank you so much for the work that you do.
Oh, it is my privilege.
Yeah, and I guess this is a good time to make sure people know. So we will have a link to that podcast episode in the show notes, but we'll also have a link to the first ever online CIRS Summit, which is coming up very soon. If you're watching this the week that we release this podcast episode, December 1st through the 6th. 2024. And it's free to register. You can go to thecirsummit.com to register for that. And the reason I'm bringing it up right now is Dr. Dashore is on an international panel that I had the privilege of moderating, I guess. And it was so amazing to see this collection of practitioners from literally across the world, everything Australia and Europe and Canada and all the countries that collectively you guys handle. But that was such a great discussion between you guys. So I hope that if anybody is watching this internationally and are wondering, gosh, there's never any resources for us outside of the US, well, we're working on that. And this episode too is what we're trying to do, at least here with the CIRS group. But the CIRS Summit, we do have that international panel as well as lots of other fantastic talks. I think over 40, right, JC? Of
Well, I personally counted 49 this morning.
40. Okay.
Fantastic.
49 talks. Yeah. And so you can register for free. Again, that's the cirssummit.com. And we'll have the link in the show notes as well. And that is for the live streaming. You can purchase the replay to replay it at your convenience as well, but that's not necessary at all. And of course, any profits made are going to CIRS research, actually. And it's important to note that all of the people putting it on, both the organizers like JC and I, as well as the speakers like Dr. Dashore, completely volunteered their time, and which is amazing. And yeah, it's just, I can't even say how wonderful it is that everyone's doing so much to put this together, a really patient-centered resource for you guys. So very excited about that. And again, thank you, Dr. Dashore, for being a part of that as well.
It was an honor. Absolutely.
Was there anything else that you'd like to share with the audience, including, how to work with you? What's the expectation? What's it like to work with you, if you'd like to share that?
It's wonderful to work with me.
Of course.
It is. We are one big global family, and when God has given you your only child back, I look upon all the children as my own. It is just so beautiful, and I have these mothers who reach out to me for advice and support all the way from diet and cooking and what are the best ingredients and recipes and, personal, emotional healing as well, spiritual growth. So we are all in this together. And I do have a little bit of a waiting list as well. It's just I'm getting older, and I'm looking to kind of gracefully enter my senior years. That means, focusing on my health, my detoxification and wellness, so I can continue to help others for as long as possible. So yes, you might have a little bit of a wait, couple months, but if something is an urgent situation, I mean, I pretty much sometimes work 7 days a week if
Mhm.
someone wants to do an urgent consultation. So I do that, but everything is all virtual. It's bionexushealth.com. And right on the homepage, you will see a new patient consultation request. Fill out the form, and my staff will take very good care of you.
Beautiful. And we will have that link in the show notes. Thank you again, Dr. Dashore, for being here and for all the work that you do. Of course, if you guys are looking for any more resources and support and love and all the good stuff, we have that over at thesursgroup.com.
We'll see you there.